You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Hello there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. It is Andrew and Donovan back here once again. We're playing catch-up this week before the Bad Batch finale. We are here to talk about the last 2 weeks' episodes. So we are talking about Into the Breach and Flash Strike. Now, normally we like to cover each episode the week they release. However, not to get into too many details, but Don just wasn't able to record the last couple weeks. So we're back here now. We're here to talk about the last two. And I think the good thing about needing to wait a week to talk about these episodes was they kind of blend in fairly seamlessly.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, because the last episode we covered, which you weren't here for either, was Juggernaut, which was how we were reintroduced to Admiral Rampart, and we broke him out of that Imperial prison. The last two have been
never expected Rampart to show up. By the way, that was such a crazy. Like I've been like teasing you like the whole way through that they were gonna have to like get help from Sid, and it's like no, the Batch would rather like enlist help from like a former enemy than go anywhere near that lizard. It's great.
I don't know who that person even is. I've erased the name from my brain.
But Thanos snapped her for
exactly. But the last two have been kind of the getting towards infiltrating Tantiss, and then also seeing Omega's plans inside of Tantiss slowly form, which we've been seeing Master Planner Omega throughout these last couple episodes, which has been great. And we got a big tease of what a big factor, emphasis on big, is going to be in her plans as we go towards the finale this week. I can't believe we're almost done. And we'll get into some predictions and thoughts to the finale later on. But my one big thing is, I'll just get it out of the way now, is I hope it's long. We haven't had any confirmation that it's going to be any longer than a regular episode, but I sure hope that they give it the treatment they did with the pilot and just have it be a double-length episode, because they're teasing so much, and I just don't know how they're going to get it done in 24 minutes.
Same. I did hear a rumor that it might be 47 minutes. That might be the runtime, which sounds about reasonable. But I agree with you. I just don't see
like a Andor episode, so I'd be okay with that.
Like they've got to kind of go the Obi-Wan treatment for me, where they have just like a bumper episode that is like extra long to resolve this, because. I mean, I'm going to be like straight up honest. I don't think every kind of plot thread we have seen throughout the series is going to get resolved here. Nope. I think almost certainly, and we'll get into this a bit later, but I think initially this was planned to go for longer than 3 seasons. And then maybe because of how certain episodes performed, they've wound up condensing it down to a 3-season story. And some of these threads are going to be continued in a successive series, maybe about Rex and his clone rebellion, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible, and I think it would kind of fit with the trend that we saw with how Clone Wars kind of went into the Bad Batch. If the next series goes into following the Bad Batch, and we have, say, Omega and a couple other characters, Asajj Ventress, from Bad Batch, and move them into that next show, I can definitely see that being a thing, and I can see us finding out about it within the year, maybe even this Saturday, but we shall see.
Yeah.
We shall see. Before we get into that, though, what am I going to do let's do this one first. So we have a couple different segments that we've been using on this show lately, and one of them we call the Jedi Archives.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
Now, it's been a couple weeks since our last episode, so Don was not here, and I don't think Don is going to be very pleased with what won the poll this past episode, because Daisy, my girl, I tried. It was your birthday when we recorded. I tried. However, the power of Phil Noto is unmatched. Phil Noto's Marchion Row cover is the newest inductee into the Jedi Archives. Don's favorite character.
Damn. I wanted Rey.
I wanted Daisy. I wanted come
Ray.
Come on.
That bastard Markian Roll stole her place. This is slanderous. I demand a recount.
Stop the count. But yeah, no, Savvy continues her streak of being undefeated with the archives. It's just she can never. It's the massive streak that will not end. Is her just always winning in the archives. So congratulations, the Evereenies have won once more, but not this week because I don't think any of us are nominating.
Congrats to Savvy, not congrats to Marky and Rowe.
No.
The Jedi are coming for you, buddy.
I hope. Now, my nomination this week, we didn't even talk about the archives before this, so I don't know what you have planned.
I literally just thought of it.
Yeah, but my nomination is in reference to one of the episodes we will be covering this week because we have a new contender for the best line in the entire series that came from last week. And it comes from our boy Echo, who has already granted us in season 1 maybe one of the best Star Wars jokes ever. Is there an Echo in here? Yes.
I'm Echo.
And then this week, so my nomination this week is him stealing a protocol droid's hand, leaving the room. Thanks for the hand.
Hot Toys teased that like years ago, and we finally get it, and he doesn't even have the armor. That's hilarious.
No.
I don't even think he could clench it though. Like I'm pretty sure it was just like an action figure hand. Like it was literally,
I think so.
Yeah, because like there's a bit where he goes by like a control panel and he just sort of presses the button like that, like he's got his hand in kind of a generic action figure pose. So I kind of like that he had like some difficulties with the hand, and maybe that's why that's sort of a subtle way of showing why he doesn't just have a prosthetic hand, since the scomp link on his arm kind of prevents that really. So it's kind of a nice way of kind of showing the somewhat of the price he has to pay for having this seeming like cybernetic enhancement.
Yep. So yeah, no, that is it. Quick and easy this week. That's my nomination because it just made me crack up laughing. And I think I don't remember which one of it. I think it might have been the Kiner brothers or the Kiner family that had said like, "Oh, new favorite line in the Bad Batch this week," and I was like, "Oh, what's it gonna be?" The minute I see that hand, I'm like, "Here we go." I know it. And then he says it, and I'm like,
thanks for the hand.
I love that this is just Echo's thing now. Is every 2 seasons he makes just a really bad dad joke, and it's just great. So yeah, that's my pick. You just said you came up with something. What do we got?
Yeah. So I was thinking you'd probably have something relevant to these 2 episodes. So I'm also going to follow suit with that. And I'm going to, for this week, for the Jedi Archives, I'm going to nominate Noshir Dalal. Because this dude doesn't miss. Like he was already really good in the prior seasons of the Bad Batch as Admiral Rampart. He had the perfect kind of like smug imperial commander voice. When we saw this guy and we heard his voice, we instantly were like, oh yeah, no, we know this dude. We love to hate this dude. And I never thought we would see him again in the show as well.
Me neither.
And not only for him to turn up in this very unexpected role of having to aid the Batch, and despite being in like a really awful position when the Batch find him, he is still every bit the smug prick that he was when we left him. It just makes a really interesting dynamic for the Batch than if they had gone to someone else.
I don't speak.
I know.
It is you speak. It's great. And then him just completely like the screams he's let out in the past couple episodes have been
when he screamed like when they were dropping from the ship. I knew. I was like, I just kind of thought back and I was like, you know what, that scream alone is like worth a nomination really. And this is coming off of like Noshir Dalal also turning in a fantastic performance as Boda Kuna in Jedi Survivor. Like when I realized it was the same dude, I was like, whoa, that's awesome. And since I'm also like binging Critical Role at the moment and just like all in as that fandom, I have to shout out the fact that Noshir Dalal has been involved with Critical Role. In fact, he's part of the cast now for their Candela Obscura series.
Sweet.
Really cool, yeah. So that's my pick for this week.
All right. So we have Noshir Dalal, the voice of Admiral Rampart, and Echo's line of "Thanks for the hand." Those are our nominations for the archives this week. We will have a Twitter poll up right after this episode drops. You can head on over to our socials at For the Repub Pod on Twitter and vote for what you think should be the newest inductee into the Jedi Archives. But speaking of voting, it's time to talk about Glup Madness. Since our last episode, we have had a few rounds happen since then. We recorded it kind of like the day before the polls were ending for the first round. So we've gotten all the way up to the semifinals were our most recent poll. And now the brackets for the finals are set. We have the winner of the blue bracket, Deva Lompop, going up against Depa Balaba, the winner of the purple bracket. The matchup is starting. We're recording this on a Monday, so as of Tuesday, this will be our final matchup. So Amy and Candace nominated these characters, and you can pick who is the gluppest of them all, and see who wins this silly little tournament we've been doing. Going through the matchups, since we haven't had you on since the tournament has started, did you have any that were like, oh my God, how am I going to pick? Or did you have any that you were very surprised by the result? And did you kind of see where this one was going?
I thought
honestly,
Depa Balaba had staying power, if I'm being honest. Like, I knew when Candace like nominated her, like I thought, yeah, she's probably gonna have staying power as a character because she is a glup, but she also is a glup that has significance in the Star Wars timeline because she is Mace Windu's Padawan, and then she goes on to train Kanan Jarrus, so she has her own sort of special place in the Star Wars lineage compared to other Glup Shittos, which definitely gives her an advantage. Also, she's a Jedi. It's really cool. She's just really cool. If they talk about a matchup that I know, Depa's great. If you're talking like matchups that I was surprised at, I couldn't pick between, Scuba Stev and Deva Lompop was definitely a struggle because love Amy, don't want to go against Amy, but Scuba Stev is such an awesome character as well. Like perfect glup. Jedi Survivor has so many amazing glup shittos that, you know, I like literally after I was thwarted by Jacob Bash with Oberlin, who, you know, just I've got to give it up to Jacob for like choosing such a great High Republic character.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, I thought Fordo had a decent shot, but like the minute that I saw Oberlin, I was like, yeah, no, Oberlin's great. I love that character. I struggled to vote against Oberlin, if I'm being honest. But yeah, if I was going to lose to anyone, if Fordo was going to go down, I'm glad it was to such a Chad of a Jedi as Oberlin.
Yeah, no, Oberlin is one that like made it to the quarterfinals, and I was kind of surprised because like because we have a lot of High Republic fans that are listeners, so I kind of, when I saw it was Oberlin and Fordo, I was like, oh man, Fordo's cool, but I feel like Oberlin's got this. But then when he went up against Vetch, which is the only thing that might outweigh High Republic fans here, is Rogue One Twitter and Andor Twitter. So I was like, oh, that's going to be tough. And then Mo's propaganda machine has been one of the highlights of this tournament. Took
Mo
me out
came to
at
play.
the very end. Let's talk about that real quick. Unfortunately, none of us on the crew made it out of round one because Connor, who had another Jedi Survivor character, was bested in round one by the Phantom Menace Pepsi mascot, which is just, again, one of my favorite picks of this whole bracket. And I had Paige against Vetch, and I was winning for most of it. And then when I tell you, like, I was watching the poll as it had 2 hours left in it. When I tell you, it went from like 60 to 40 me, and then within 2 minutes, because Mo put out a bunch of tweets, flipped and like got reversed. And I'm like, are you shitting me? I was legit mad. I was like, oh, come on. I thought I had it.
You've been saying about how you didn't want to lose to Mo again, and she just like came in at the last second.
At the last second,
it's incredible.
Flipped it on me, which is just, it got me. But one of the other things, like, because one of the biggest surprises for me, and again, I guess it can't be that big of a surprise because of Rogue One Twitter, was how well Antok Merrick did making it all the way to the semis. I was very worried. I've never rooted for anyone faster in my life or harder in my life than when Merrick was up against Baze, because I love Baze as a character.
Same.
But like, Austin, come on, man. That's a major side character.
Baze is not a Glup.
He's not a Glup. So I was like, please, someone take out Baze. And I thought I thought we would be fine, because I thought Scotty was going to win with Terrace and Ube.
Yeah.
And then they got beat at the very last second again. I'm like, God damn it. And then getting to Baze and Merrick, getting two Rogue One characters against each other, the Gluppist prevailed there. So shout out Lynn's, almost made it to the very end, but Depa Balaba really was the powerhouse on the purple side of the bracket. First round beat Jorah Malley and the Mother Off, which was still maybe the most engagement we've had from any of the polls, was that matchup there. Then she beat Marfel up in round 2 and Cloud in round 3, and then Merrick in round 4. So I saw a lot of people be like, oh man, how did Claude make it this far? Like, people just had such a vitriol. Like, I'm like, you're the ones that voted him into the quarterfinals.
To be fair, like, Claude's main competition was Lilio Primoc and Weymouth. Yeah. So, like, I mean, shout out to Alden for being like very savvy with Weymouth.
I was on this train before it was cool, which got me.
It's like, fair enough. Fair enough, dude. You are like a solo Star Wars like stan among us, so I'll give you that for like very much reading the room with Weymouth. That was very canny, man. I respect it.
Yeah, no. And Weymouth took out your brother with Clone Trooper Boost, which was, that one was close. Admittedly,
it was so close. I really thought he was going to pull it back with that like awesome thread he did about like just like Boost on the 104th and stuff, but it was not to be.
Yeah, no, the randomizer was not kind for a lot of characters in this one.
If you're talking like surprises, I actually thought Peppy Bo would make it further.
Oh yeah, me too.
Because that's another one we're talking about with like Anton Merrick. Literally thwarted Peppy Bo. I did not expect such an awesome character to not make it to the semis, but that like you said, the strength.
I mean, I was glad Peppy was in the tournament to begin with, because I thought Connor was for sure going to nominate her, and then he didn't. So then Buck did, and I'm like, okay, so we still have her in the tournament. And I thought, like I said, I thought she was going to make it far, but you know, Rogue One Twitter, they just they're a beast. On the other side of the bracket, I found it kind of funny that Eli was championing Ochi so hard, and then he lost to Deva. Then they kind of had Ochi and Turgle, I think, were the victims of the biggest smear campaigns on that side of the bracket. Which again, I guess that's the thing is Savvy and I predicted on that side a Skuvastev Turgle semifinals to win that side of the bracket. And we came close. And Skuvastev did, in fact, make it to the semis. But Turgle, I think that was maybe the biggest upset of the entire bracket for me, was Turgle losing to Deva. And I think it changed the trajectory of a lot of the tournament, because I feel like if it didn't go that way, I feel like Turgle may have been where Deva is right now in the finals. This one's it's gonna be tough. I like the fact that it's two very similar names, but two couldn't be more different characters. But it's just the beauty of Glup Madness. And I just want to thank everyone. We'll talk more about it probably next episode or the next time you hear from us, because I don't know when we're going to be recording our season 3 finale episode. But I just want to thank everyone again for your participation and how invested you guys have been in this tournament. It really took me by surprise, because Don and Connor and Savvy and Mo and everyone I've talked about this can attest that I was worried that this was not going to work, because I was like desperately trying to fill spots, and I was like, this is gonna bomb. So to see like just how much you guys have enjoyed this and how invested you've been in it, and the people that are already like, oh man, I'm gonna win Glup Madness too. It's like, all right, well, I guess we got to do another one then. Like, I mean, I'm very okay with this being a yearly thing for us because this has been a blast and I've had so much fun getting as
Same.
invested in this as you guys have been. So, yep, finals. We're recording this on a Monday. Finals are beginning Tuesday. So, probably once this episode drops, you can head on over to our socials and vote. Once again, wrong graphic. Once again, our finals are Devil Lompop, submitted by Amy, big friend of the show, and then Depa Balaba, submitted by Candace of the Geeky Waffle. So go ahead, vote in the battle to determine the winner of Glup Madness. This is where the fun ends, sadly. But
yeah. You didn't have to come in with that.
Oh yeah, I made it sad. No. Anyways, vote. Silly little tournament. Let's have some fun. Let's see who the best Glup is. Now getting into the Bad Batch episodes, I think we'll kind of condense instead of going from Into the Breach into Flash Strike, we'll just kind of condense our thoughts on both of them as a whole. I guess to be fully transparent, the big reason, at least for me, is Flash Strike is easily the most fresh on my mind because it's been almost 2 weeks since I've watched that first episode. I mean, I still have quite a few things that stand out. But as we start, I guess we can start with we end the heartbreaker of what was the episode? Point of No Return.
Yeah.
With Omega being sent back to Tantiss, and we really start to see the beginnings of her plans to escape once more. And this is the episode where she flat out says, I've escaped this mountain before, and I'm going to do it again. And she is going to get all her plan is to get all the kids off the Tantiss as well. So I like that we go more direct into that, and she's doing it while, Dr. Scalder is clearly, she's like, oh, something's up. But Omega just keeps outwitting her, one step ahead of her. And I love this master tactician of Omega, and we're really getting to see everything she's learned from her brothers culminate in this one final mission to escape off Tantiss. And I think the fact that when the season began, our expectations were subverted by her getting off Tantiss quicker than we thought, but also not even needing Hunter and Wrecker and Echo's help, and just getting that with just her and Crosshair on her own and getting back to her brothers. And even though we're seeing her brothers go to save her again, I think it is very interesting that we're probably going to see a repeat of that. Maybe not fully, but get to see her have her own portion of the plan to help her escape and get not only the specimens off Mount Tantiss, but the clones as well. And I'm very interested in how it's going to happen. And she's got so many great lines in this episode, and just looks so. We're using the verbiage here, but she just looks so cool throughout the entirety of this episode, just planning and scheming. It's like, that's going to be challenging. It's okay.
I like a challenge.
I'm like, oh,
best
my
line
God.
of hers in the episode.
It's like, you're telling me this is a 12, 13-year-old kid? I don't believe it. That's a fully grown adult right there.
Yeah, she's been molded into a full-on soldier at this point, in terms of her strategy and her tactics, which is just really cool to see. Into just to see her be so capable and be such a reassuring presence to these kids, because the one kid, I can't remember her name, sadly. The one who was talked a lot with Emerie Carr in the previous episode.
Ava? That one? Or
yes. I think, no, the first one you said. Yeah, that one very much broke my heart.
Species, that one?
Yes. That one. Yeah, she broke my heart for the first part of that episode because of how hoped her voice sounded. And it was just such a to see that character having gone from just a very kind of innocent place to this sense of hopelessness. There was just something really so sad to see about it, obviously, but to see Omega come in and basically just very confidently just like rally these kids and basically say to them, yeah, you know, I've got a plan for how to get out of here. I escaped this place before. I'm going to do it again. Like, she wasn't beaten at all by the fact that she got taken back to Tantiss. It just made her more determined. And it's really like good to see in terms of like, you know, pacing and stuff. And it keeps the story from feeling stale and repeated, because we already did spend several episodes with Omega on Tantiss, kind of like locked into the banal monotony of like a day-to-day life there, and it feeling like there wasn't escape. So to have her now come back and just be like, no, I'm not staying here. I'm immediately, to have her be proactive immediately is great, because it keeps things from feeling very, like, as I said, stale. I was going to say something else about, like you said about Dr. Skolder as well. I like that we've got to see a bit of how some of Emerie Carr's contemporaries behave as well, just to give a sense of like where Emerie is, like morality wise, because like we said before, Emerie is a very guarded character. She doesn't Keisha Castle Hughes very much kind of like plays it as reserved, so that the few flickers of emotion that come through are very noticeable. And when you contrast that against the even colder, even more like almost contemptuous like contemporaries that she has with us, like Dr. Skolder, who just seems to have nothing but like contempt for these kids, and really has just disassociated completely to view them as like just things to be experimented on. It casts Emerie's behavior in a whole other light, which is just like, I'm really interested. I have no idea what's going to happen with Emerie Carr now, because I figured that she would maybe make some big sacrifice, but I kind of get the sense that she could maybe go on after this. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of question marks with the finale, which is a very kind of, it's not a common thing with Star Wars finales. You usually have an idea of how you think it's going to go, and instead it feels there's a lot up in the air.
I have like a slight idea of like broad strokes of things I think are going to happen, but certain details, I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know I have ideas of some characters that might not make it, but like
I have one.
Who's living, who's not going to live, how are they going to escape, what is this plan going to entail, are people going to show up, is the cavalry going to arrive, and who is that going to be? Like, those things, I'm very curious and intrigued on where they're going. But yeah, shout out Dr. Scholar for just being asshole. Like, I don't care for her. She's not good. And it just to show the contrast of like her versus Emerie. Like, Scalder is the Imperial we met first, because I think we met her at the end of season 1. And she's just very clearly like, she's what we thought Emerie was before we had that twist at the end of season 2 that she is a clone as well. And now we're seeing more and more of Emerie being humanized and her opening up. And as we get to the end of next episode, you know, can we trust her? Can we not? Is she going to try to help them? Is she going to still turn on them? Like, I'm still waiting for that moment of her going against Hemlock, because I think it's going to be great. But again, I don't know why. I mean, I have a very bad feeling that she's not going to make it much or like that far past her turn back to the light. Like, I'm very worried. But
the scene with Echo, sorry to interrupt, but like the scene with Echo, I have to kind of like jump to because of how it was really interesting as well. Because again, we got to see her emotions break through, and it was really cool to see her interact with one of the batch who wasn't Crosshair. Like, to have it be Echo, who's
I love how she recognized him immediately.
Yeah, that got me. I was like, oh wow, no, she
always talked
really
about her brothers, and she always said they'd be coming back for her. And it's like, oh man,
yeah. And I love that Echo gave her a little bit of crap as well, because Echo, I suppose, in a sense, has been the moral center of the group. In terms of like, he was the moral center in terms of saying how they should fight the Empire, and so I kind of like, I liked that he was a little confrontational with Emerie, but also kind of like, well, you know, Omega vouched for you, basically. So I'm gonna cautiously trust you because Omega hasn't steered me wrong so far. Which
how many times is Emerie gonna be like, oh, I'm just doing my job, or I was just doing like,
I know, and I like that he called her on it as well, because it's like it was her own version of good soldiers follow orders, really, which is just it. The
I
more you think about that line, the more there is like chilling
yeah.
implications about it.
And Rampart throws it back in Crosshair's face in the second episode as well.
Yeah.
But like again, like I would be a little bit more concerned for Emerie if she didn't realize that something was off and that wasn't Echo, because she literally watches him like take his hand off and put it back on. And she's like, nothing's off there. Like that's
nothing to see here.
nothing to see here. It's fine.
Just changing my hand.
Yeah. Thanks to the hand.
Also, speaking of Rampart, why do I get the feeling that if him and Skolder ever met, they would instantly be attracted to each other?
Oh, probably.
Yeah, like that's like there's a new ship for your Bad Batch fans. Like Rampart,
Skolder and Rampart. Yeah,
Scamparts.
Oh no. There it is. It's better than the last ship name we got from this fandom. That's for certain. We're not addressing that by name. But I just
gotta redeem the shipper's side of the Bad Batch fandom.
Before I bounce back to Omega, I just want to give props to Echo for really being, in my mind, the MVP of these two episodes. Getting to see him like go on his own and be the reason that the Batch is able to get to Tantiss was just incredible. And getting to see him just infiltrate the base himself, and I just loved it. And I think because season 1, I was of the belief that, I mean, I love Echo, but I felt like he didn't get as much development in the first season as, say, Hunter and Crosshair and the like did. And then season 2 really did a lot to improve that. Same with Tech, as they made them more individual characters and improved on that. And then Echo splintered off and went with Rex, so he got to do his own thing. And every time they've brought him back, I think he's been used incredibly well, and his role in the infiltration of Tantiss has been awesome. And I can't wait to talk more about it.
Same.
It makes me very worried that he might be one of the sacrifices we get in the finale, but I hope
weirdly
that's not the case.
Oh, he seems the most safe to me, weirdly, because partly because he's got that position in the Clone Rebellion, but also because he left his armor behind. And that kind of makes me think, because we talked about like potential spin-offs as well. I'd be very surprised if following the finale, we don't get some kind of announcement that any loose threads are going to be like continued in a show about Rex and the Clone Rebellion, because we don't really have. I mean, we've had like no CX2 in the final. In the final couple episodes, like he literally, we were speculating about like if he would interact with Omega at all. He literally just dropped her off and took off immediately.
Been seen since Juggernaut. Like it's been a couple episodes.
It doesn't exactly disprove any theories that we've had, but it also kind of shows that he isn't going to be a factor in the finale at all. Because if he was, he would have stayed on there and Omega would have had some scenes with him. But instead, I feel like he's something that's being saved for a future series. And I feel like the same is true for Echo. Because I feel like, he left his armor behind. He had to leave his armor behind in order to get a TK Trooper suit and infiltrate the base. And I don't think he's going to get it back by the end of the series. I think he's going to lose it. And he might have to don a new piece of armor, because again, I feel like this show is like, there's going to have to be a way, because if we're continuing on to like a series about more clones, this series does kind of have to symbolically mark the end of the Bad Batch as a unit or as some kind of like group that is active in the story. And I think it might take the form of the deaths of some of them, but also just for Echo, I feel like he will symbolically have to abandon any vestige of his life with the Batch and just fully sink in with Rex. Like maybe he'll get like an armor that's more akin to the armor he had at the start of at the end of the Clone Wars arc where he was returned, or maybe he'll have a version of his ARC Trooper armor again with the handprint. That would be kind of interesting. It always bothered me that he didn't have the handprint on the armor, because that was such a staple of his Clone Wars design that I've always missed it. So that would make me a little emotional if we saw that again.
Yeah, no, I hope you're right. But I'm like, if say the next series isn't about the clones, I think that might change things. But you make a very good point about the armor, and I guess tiptoeing off of that, what do you think of the more stripped down versions of the batch armor that they have to do to
Oh,
infiltrate the Imperial base?
that was sad. That was a surprisingly
Yeah.
sad bit of them having to like sand the armor down and just take away any individuality. It was kind of like it felt like a little sacrifice because their uniqueness, their individuality is something that's really like something the Bad Batch have like championed about themselves, that they're unique, amongst clones. And to see them kind of like have to take that off their armor, it was kind of a blow, but it shows how how much they care about Omega. And it was really funny as well, the fact that all they did was like take the decals off their armor, and the Imperials were just like, hey, that's not regulation, but okay. Because like the Empire's still relatively new. There's all these different troopers walking around. So like who's to say like who for the regular Imperial officer, who's to say what is regulation armor? Because you've got death troopers, you've got like purge troopers walking around. There's all these different like permutations of like clone armor. So it was just kind of a funny, kind of like amusing bit as well. And it was kind of like a fresh take on the whole they infiltrate the Imperial base thing, really.
Yep. And Rampart pulls a Tala from Kenobi and just pretends to be an Imperial officer, and none of them.
It's like, of course
noticed.
He does. Of course he does, because like
he gets super into it. It's the opposite of Tala, where Tala is fully like on board with the path at that point. Rampart is like, we still don't know. It's like I don't know if we don't know where his loyalties lie. Is he still for the Empire? Like what? That's why he's like. He in my mind is the biggest wild. I was just gonna say he in my mind for the finale is the biggest wild card, because we see him captured by the troopers during the. Why am I forgetting the name of the episode? During the second episode, Flash Strike, we see him capture there, and we don't see him after that. So like, is he going to help the clones? Is he going to try to join back up with the Empire and then just get cast aside again? What's going to happen with him? Is he going to pull a big hero moment? Like, what's happening here?
Oh, I think he's going Hux. I think he's going to go the way of General Hux. I think he will betray the batch, and Hemlock will just pop him right there, like immediately, just to like show how expendable the Empire views him, because he's just still a little too attached to the station that he lost. Like, I laughed out loud when he said, "Oh, this is a captain's uniform," and like Hunter just replies,
like, "I was a vice admiral." It's like, all right, congrats, you've been demoted. Another great Echo line.
Just great. I love that. I love the batch's sass towards him through the whole way. Like when they Wrecker and Crosshair reunite with Hunter, and they're like, "Did Hemlock survive? No, sorry, did Rampart survive? Unfortunately, yes." Like, it's just brilliant. But to just complete what I was saying, it's a funny line, the whole, "Oh, this is a captain's uniform, I was a vice admiral," but it shows that Hemlock is still too wedded to that idea, like of it being an Imperial. If he could just get his station back, if he could just prove his worthfulness, his worthiness to the Empire, like his worth to the Empire, sorry, then they'll just induct him back in. It's kind of like James Norrington in the Pirates of the Caribbean sequels, where he's kind of like a drunkard prick, like, for much of the film, and he just has this thought, "Oh no, if I just prove myself, then I'll be accepted back in," and he kind of is, but there's extra consequences to that, and I feel like that will happen to. I feel like that's just what's going to happen to Rampart. I don't think he makes it out of this alive, and I think him being cut down by Hemlock is another way of showing how ruthless Hemlock is. Like, I say he could get shot. Maybe it'll be extra gruesome, and Hemlock might just like feed him to one of those monsters there.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's like
that would be something.
Like that scary bear thing gets him. That thing was a bit. Thing was a bit much.
He was terrified of that thing.
Oh, I thought it was going to eat him right there and then for a second there. I was like, "Oh, is he just going to get got this episode? That would be nuts."
No, like it again. I'm very curious of how, because like he was getting a bit too into the role when he was pretending to be the captain again, but it was also just kind of funny just seeing him like play along with the plan. So like that's why I'm like I don't know what's gonna happen. Is he going to turn? Is he going to pull a callus and eventually help? Not necessarily join the rebellion, but like give them a hand. But I just love how Crosshair just seems like inches away from just taking him out right then and there every single time they interact on
Yeah,
screen.
it's
I think
just
it's
so
hilarious.
it adds to the dynamic as well. Like like I said, it adds like a layer of tension to like the episode because now you've got, like you said, you've got this wild card in Rampart, but there's just that it's also undercut with that humor of like the Batch, like just constantly giving him crap and like stuff like in Juggernaut when like Wrecker just like throws his stunned body
Oh
onto the
my god, that
shuttle.
was
It's brilliant.
hilarious.
That's brilliant.
And no, I think Rampart's been freaking hilarious. Like
Oh
these
no, I'm
past
so
couple
glad.
episodes.
I'm so glad that they went for him, because again, I thought they would go to someone else for help, and it was just really cool that it was really unexpected. And again, Noshir Dalal's just a delight to listen to because he's just such a good voice actor in terms of like getting across Rampart's arrogance, but also his kind of like cowardice. And after seeing Rampart in such a position of power, there is kind of a delight in seeing him just on the back foot constantly and kind of sniveling. Like it's just, yeah, it's a great reversal.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I guess to get further into Omega's plans, like I love the little like Mission Impossible moments where she's kind of racing against time and then she keeps finding a way to come back and fool Dr. Scalder. I think every single time I thought it worked great. And I just love how she's planning and everything. But I again there was a really touching moment when it relates to the kids, or just like a oh shit kind of moment when Echo realizes that it's not just clones and that there's like other Force sensitive children in the vault. There's like, children, like what do you mean children? And like I'm very curious of where this is all going, just because I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know how they're gonna get out, and like we said, the concept of Omega and Emerie kind of working off of each other and working together is going to be very interesting to me in the finale, because it's a pairing that I just haven't expected. Like at no point did I think, oh yeah, Emerie and what's his name, Echo, they're gonna work together in the finale. Like that's just not something that I thought we were gonna see. So it's all just very interesting to me, and I like the directions it's going.
I just had a thought actually, because we just joked about. I actually think I might change my mind actually midstream about Rampart, because
Ooh.
the thought did just occur to me that maybe the reverse happens. Maybe because I was thinking, given what we've said about this potentially continuing in another show, I don't feel like everything will get wrapped up with a bow. I do think the Omega and the Batch's plans are going to cripple Tantiss as a base, and I feel like the Empire might have to temporarily vacate it. I do, and I feel like there's going to be some kind of resolution here where there will be some kind of like victory in a sense for the Batch and potentially the clones if they manage to get Rex involved. But I think what could potentially happen is that Hemlock goes down with the ship, so to speak. He could die along with like the kind of like Tantiss getting trashed, and potentially Rampart could step in and fill that role again. I could see that, because thinking back, a lot of his dynamic was more with the kind of regs and stuff compared to like the Bad Batch. I feel like it makes a lot of sense for him maybe to step back into that role potentially. I mean, my first theory could be right, but I also think it would be interesting if he does in fact kind of sneak back in and go, oh yeah, look, I'm here, I'll take back Hemlock's role, thank you. And he becomes like the antagonist for the next series, potentially the follow-up show about the clone resistance, because I get the sense that maybe the clones, I don't think they'll get all the clones off Tantiss. I think they might even have to choose between saving the kids and saving the clones, and most of the clones might get ferried off to different worlds, because we've seen that there are other facilities. We saw that at the start, and I wonder if that's maybe the point of showing that facility in the second episode of season 3, showing that the Empire has other facilities where it's experimenting on the clones. So maybe they get evacuated as the Omega's plan starts to like thrash around and destroy the place, and that it becomes an objective for the clone resistance, maybe in the follow-up series, potentially.
That would be interesting. Yeah. I mean, spoilers for a conversation we might have at the end of the episode, but yeah, no, I think Hemlock is toast. I think he's been an incredible villain, but I can't feasibly see a version of the finale where he doesn't die at the end of it.
He got to go.
He definitely does have to go. I think it's going to be very satisfying, and whoever it is that takes him out, I'll be very, very curious to see what happens there.
Oh, if Crosshair just gets the shot off.
Well, yeah,
like,
I thought the big satisfying moment was going to be CX2, but again, it's like I don't know how big of a role, if at all, he's going to play in the finale. I assume he'll be in there somewhat, but I feel like if you were going to have the big reveal, you would have needed to do that within the last 3 episodes, and they just haven't touched on him at all. So maybe that's the post-credits teaser for the finale is boom, and it's whoever it is.
I think I've seen some people say online that potentially they have like a post-credit scene about Thrawn just like arriving at Tantiss base, which I think is very plausible, because we obviously you've already talked about it in your video, but we obviously, since I've been gone, Lucasfilm just casually dropped the Tales of the Empire trailer, which blew my mind, because like literally the trailer starts, I'm like, oh, what's this? Tales of the Empire, and then immediately I hear, why do you seek Imperial favor? I'm like, what?
You're like,
what's
wait
going
a
on
minute,
here?
what? And then you see Thrawn in the Clone Wars style, and you're like,
and it's like, what is going on? This is so cool.
They have the model. They have the model. They can
exactly.
have them.
It's like, yeah, and look, Darth Vader also in that show. So maybe I'm going to port my Darth Vader meeting Rex theory over to this new show potentially, if it is what we think it is, and I think it is. But yeah, the Thrawn I think is very plausible. I've just got to say, before I move on from the Tales of the Empire trailer, Barriss Offee is back, and that blows my mind. I was already like, oh, this is really cool. We're going to learn more about Morgan Elsbeth. That's really cool. And then the fourth sister appears and says, I'm here to present you with an opportunity, Barriss. And I literally exclaimed out loud, no, what? What? Like that?
Oh, I screamed in the work bathroom. It was bad. It was really bad.
I've been wanting Barriss to come back for years. I've been fascinated with her as a character.
It's been 11 years.
It's been 11 years, and we haven't heard anything about Barriss. And so it's so cool that we're finally going to get to see more of that story and actually see what Dave Filoni had planned for the character. Now, you better not kill her, because I feel like we've waited years to find out what happened to this character, and if they just kill her off, it would devastate me, because Barriss as a character has such potential to like go from someone who became disillusioned with the Jedi, just like Ahsoka did to an extent, and having to kind of like relearn her path to the light. That would be really cool, and it's really cool that we're going to get to see the inner workings of the Inquisitors through like her integration into them. And we've got Jason Isaacs back as the Grand Inquisitor.
Back. We got Marok back. We got the one from Tales of Jedi back. But that's why, like, I talked about it in my video, but I think the concept it's using the anthology concept way better in terms of just the choice of characters. Because like Tales of Jedi, I thought was fine. And I thought Dooku was a nice choice, but like you didn't really need to have Ahsoka be the other character, because we've seen so much, and it's just like, yeah, Dave, it's his baby, but you could have done so many different characters, which is why when the second season was announced, we were like, okay, cool, we can have other characters, and then it have the twist of it being Tales of the Empire. And I just think like Elsbeth, the choices are great, because like Elsbeth as a character, it's like I like her, I don't love her, but like getting to see more of the character, I'm like, okay, I like that. And then Barriss, I mean, come on, like it's great. So
and it rhymes as well with Tales of the Jedi, because you have one character whose fate is already predetermined, but we already know Morgan Elsbeth's trajectory as a character by and large. She'll fight Ahsoka, she'll wind up in jail, she'll help get Thrawn back from the unknown regions, and then she will die by Ahsoka's hand in the series finale of Ahsoka Series 1. But now we're going to learn more about her motivation, similar to how we did with Count Dooku. And just like with Tales of the Jedi, you've got a young former Jedi disillusioned with the Order, trying to work out how they live and survive in a world that the Empire now controls. Only whereas Ahsoka had to figure out how he survives as a Jedi, Barriss is going to have to learn how to survive as a Darksider, which is just really, it's really cool. And I just feel like Barriss will potentially even desert the Inquisitorius by the end. That would make a lot of sense. And we breezed by the Fourth Sister. The Fourth Sister is in this. Because she was basically, I know, because she was basically an ascended extra in Obi-Wan. So it's really cool that we're gonna like actually get some investment in this character and learn more about what makes her tick. But yeah, Tales of the Empire is just really cool, and it opens the realm up for all these different kind of like concepts for you to explore with this anthology thing. You could have Tales of the Mandalorian, Tales of the Smugglers, the Rebellion, the Resistance, the First Order. The sky is limitless.
Exactly. I think that's the perfect way to do an anthology type of story. And May the 4th, it's going to be a great May the 4th gift. We'll probably be covering it sometime next week. It'll be tough having to do our full Bad Batch season 3 episode, and that'll probably come after we do Tales of the Empire, if I'm being honest.
Probably, yeah.
But then it's like there's a certain 25th anniversary that's coming up in the middle of May that will, spoiler, but I have something planned for that. So it's like we will. May's going to be a month to watch here for the
Andy Samberg gift. Noise, yeah,
noise. But yeah, Tales of the Empire tangent aside, I want to talk about how cool the end of Into the Breach was, with Echo coming in clutch, and Rampart time after time like, oh, just call it off. He's dead. He's not going to make it. It's like, and Crosshair's just insistent. It's like, Echo has this. It's such a 180 for his character.
It really is.
Which I full trust in his life that Echo is going to come through, and literally like at the last second does boom, jump in hyperspace. I literally did it's cliche, but I literally did like a fist pump in the air, like watching it. I was so hyped.
Because it's like, it was so like by the skin of their teeth, and you know, we all figured that they would make it to Tantiss, but they've had so many near misses, and we weren't guaranteed that this was a sure thing, because you know, both of their attempts to get to Tantiss have failed before. They failed in the season 2 finale. Crosshair failed to tag Omega's shuttle with a tracker, so they potentially could have failed here, and that made it just feel a little more tense, a little more nerve-wracking. So when they did just like clamp onto the shuttle at the last minute, it was just so cool, and such a great way to close out that episode and make you go, oh, I can't believe I have to wait a week to find out what happens next. That was just
great.
That might be one of the best cliffhangers in the show, to be honest.
Absolutely. But it was also just like there was no like bittersweetness or anything. It was just like, oh heck yeah. Like it was just, that's why I was like, after I watched the episode, I'm like, that was awesome. Like I don't care. Like that ruled so hard. And I love that we literally like start right off back into it in the next episode. Hemlock is briefed on it. They know that Rampart helped them out, and they send the U-wings after the batch, and we just immediately get a space battle, which was awesome. And then eventually the shuttle that they stole is shot out of the sky, and they have to go through the forests and everything, and we get to see them encounter some of the different creatures, like that weird bear thing that Rampart had the massive scream over. It was just, oh man, there was, I just loved the way that we went from. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't know whether the logistics of them actually being able to survive, like rappelling down and dropping, but it was such a cool action sequence, and I buy that they're durable enough to withstand that. Rampart, I kind of feel like he should have been a bloody smear on the floor, but you know,
that was hilarious.
I mean, Hunter was probably wishing for that to happen, but never mind. Like
Hunter
maybe Rampart
throwing him out of the. Oh, that was the scream. It was everything. He says, "Did Rampart survive?" unfortunately. Like it
Like
was
they were probably saying to Nashir Dalal, "Oh, don't worry, we're gonna just like patch a Wilhelm scream in post," and he's like, "Nah, I got this. I got
no.
this.
I
Yeah,
got this, guys. Come on. I'll ham it up. Don't
I'll
you
have it up,
worry. I'm taking this new Rampart into consideration. You're going to get a work of art. And man, oh man, did we. That was just absolutely beautiful. In the meantime, I love that as Omega's talking to the kids, she kind of hears the explosions and she's like, "Oh, I think my
My
brothers
brothers are
yeah,
here."
my brothers are here."
Like
And
I meant to I was gonna say earlier, and I was gonna talk about Emery, but I did forget a thing I was gonna say about Omega, and that is that I love how Andor-esque those scenes with her feel. It feels
oh,
exactly like
absolutely.
it gave me like Narkina 5 vibes
Yep.
of like Cassian is just like because in that story Cassian is just the whole time he's looking for how he can get out of there. He's got like strategy in place of what he's going to do. He's going to figure it out. And Omega has the same mindset, and it's such an exhilarating thing to watch a character seemingly dropped into a hopeless situation and to see in them a kind of confidence that isn't just like kind of arrogant, like, "Oh no, yeah, I'm fine. I've got this." It's more just this quiet determination of, "Oh no, I know I've got this. I know what to do. I have the skills to do this, and I have the wherewithal to pull it off." And it's just really cool to see. And I love that her plan bore a very, very large and unexpected fruit,
Yep.
which I totally forgotten. I'll full disclosure, I had forgotten about the Zillow Beast to an extent. I didn't really think we were going to get more from it necessarily. So when
I had a
she looked through
feeling.
when she looked through the
But then when
grate,
she looked through the grate and she
yeah.
sees it, and she's just immediately like, "Oh, I got an idea."
Yeah, I got
And
a plan right here. Yeah.
oh god, just the shot of Omega riding the Zillow Beast into action. Give me that. Give me-
And because we've been saying, haven't we? Like we've been speculating about how Omega's force sensitivity was going to manifest, and this is going to be it because Omega's biggest manifestation of the force so far has been her empathy, but also her connection with nature and animals. She's had that bond with Batcher the whole way through, and this is just going to be a bigger form of that because she started the show.
Batcher.
A bigger Batcher because she started the show helping a creature that was being picked on and tortured and experimented, and now she's going to do the same for something as gargantuan as the Zillow Beast. She's going to put Asajj Ventress's training like to work here and connect with this creature and help it escape, and that's going to be just insane, and it's going to make the finale really propulsive in a way that we weren't necessarily expecting, because that thing is going to I get the sense that thing is going to tear up Tantiss base at least by the 15-minute mark.
Cool. Speaking of Batcher, I feel bad for like I was just thinking like last night I was like, wait a minute, hold on. They just left Batcher on Pabu. Like, there's something missing the last couple episodes.
Oh no, I'm glad, because the temptation to kill Batcher would have been very strong, because Hemlock is the kind of prick that would immediately kill Batcher just to try and break Omega and the others. So I'm glad that Batcher is safe. That's a little consolation amongst like what I'm sure are going to be at least a couple of deaths. I have like
safe at least.
I think Batcher's safe. I think Omega is probably going to be safe as well. I've heard some people speculating that Omega might die, but
nope, that cannot happen.
I don't think that's going to happen because so much of the show has been about keeping Omega safe and giving Omega the chance to live on, and Star Wars doesn't really go in for that as a franchise, like killing young characters off. Young characters, I should stress, in a lead role, because I know I'm going to get potentially people in the comments saying, yeah, but what about Anakin killing the younglings? Those younglings were minor characters. They weren't a main character like Omega. Main characters like Omega and Ezra and Rey, the story doesn't really go in for that because Star Wars is a generational story. It's all about different, like passing on. Literally, it's literally what Yoda says: pass on what you have learned to the next generation. Literally passing the lessons that each successive like generation of characters that we meet pass on what they've learned to the next. And Omega is the latest recipient of that with the Bad Batch. So if anyone's guaranteed to make it out of the show, it's going to be her along with Batcher.
Now, furious if they kill Omega.
I don't think they will. I think she is safe, but I feel like we should maybe, since we've brought it up, like I feel like you and I should maybe like just drop who we think is
Yeah.
potentially
So
fated for death now.
I had
Yeah.
a game we could play that I had in mind, like live or die for the finale. So I guess we can just go through characters and just go. So for me, it's like Hemlock to me is the for sure, like he's a goner. I have
Yeah,
Hemlock
dead.
as dead. I sadly also think Emerie is going to die. That is my big. I have a very bad feeling that
I'm
it's
gonna keep a
going to be
tally
the.
so we see who's the who gets like more since this is a game we'll do it as a tally. Let's see who gets
Yeah.
more right and more wrong of like the death
Yeah,
count.
and we'll check back here during the finale review and see if we were right. So I
Yeah.
can't get I've had this since the beginning of the season of she finally goes against Hemlock and Hemlock immediately is just like boom, that's it. So I have her dying. I also think that if you do have Rex's clones come to help, we might lose one of them. And I don't think it's going to be Rex. Well, it can't be Rex, obviously. But I think our Baja Blast boy, Hauser, I think he might be a goner too.
Oh, I think for sure if Rex's clone rebellion shows up to help out, I would be very surprised if Hauser did not bite the dust and make a big sacrificial
Because
play.
it's going to be
I
like
can even see him
this show's
saving
version of
Crosshair.
that would be great. And it would be a complete like bookend of the Ryloth arc and then Hauser saving Crosshair in the two-parter earlier in the season, and then him making the sacrifice. But I think it would be like this show's version of Gregor's death in the Rebels finale, where you don't have like a major character go out, but it's still like all of this kind of hurts. I guess briefly interrupting. If Rex's clones do show up, do you see Wolf showing up, or do you think that's no?
And that's why I think we've got another series about the Clone Rebellion starting. Because we haven't seen anything from Wolf. Wolf doesn't seem to be in this at all. So I feel like Wolf is something that's being saved for the next series, the follow-up series, that he's gonna maybe appear some more, and maybe we'll see potentially whatever's left of this project try and convert him into a CX clone, and that explains like why he's so a little bit messed up when they first meet him in Rebels. But I think Wolf is like gone. I don't think Wolf is going to play a part in the finale. Hauser, I think, is very likely for death if he shows up, because we don't see him with the rest of the Resistance. He could maybe carry through to the Clone Resistance show, which would make sense. Emerie, I think Emerie could survive potentially, because I feel like she could become part of the Clone Resistance show. That would make some sense.
I hope you're right. I just can't get it out of my mind that they're going to kill her, because they've been doing so great lately with their not immediately killing redeemed characters thing. So I feel like there's going to be one.
I think Omega will go back to Pabu by the end of the series and be able to sort of live some of her life there, potentially get to be sort of a kid there.
Omega, I think, I think Omega is 100% safe. I think
I don't think that'll be the end of her. I think we will see her again in this show. I think she'll be in theories about it.
No matter what the next series is, I think she's in it in some way. I don't know if she's going to be a main character, but I think she's going to be in it, and I think we might see her aged up a bit more.
Yeah. I think she'll play a similar role that Rex did in the Bad Batch show, where she'll show up for certain significant storylines. But I think, it's going to be more of a recurring role compared to like her lead role here. But I feel like Emerie kind of needs to be in the next series, because I feel like otherwise you're going to have another show that is just D. Bradley Baker in the main cast. So you need an extra actor to like sort of fill out.
That's why I think we're going to get Ventress and maybe some other characters that we've seen in prior shows.
And since she hasn't made any appearance outside of a reference, I think Sid could still make an appearance.
Okay, only if my pitch that I had on Twitter comes true, which is there's just an extended 20-minute break in the episode where they just feed her to the Sarlacc pit. That's the only. Another character, I'll just throw her out there. I don't think she's even going to be in the finale, but I think Fee is safe. I don't think they're going to kill Fee. I also don't.
I think Fee's a regular in the Clone Resistance show going forward. I could see her assisting them for sure. That's why I also think Echo is safe. I think Echo, he makes sense as like a co-lead. He's on the poster with Rex. You know, he's being paired with Rex the whole time, and it would be very weird to pair him up with Rex, literally take him away for most of the episodes, and then just kill him and then do a Clone Resistance show. It just doesn't make sense. It makes more sense for Echo to carry over into that show, to be the bridge there and retain a leading role, and maybe change his clone armor to, like I said earlier, like to reflect the fact that he's now fully with this Clone Resistance.
So
I feel like we should. Yeah, go on.
Before you get into another one, I have that I don't think is going to be in the episode, but is very closely related to Rex's movement, is Senator Chuchi. I thought for sure that she was not going to make it out of this show, but I don't think she's going to be in the finale. So I think they're going to save that and for whatever the next show is, because I just think there's too much, and they can't cram something like that into this episode.
It would be a mistake for sure.
Another thing that it sounds like we're disagreeing on, I think Rampart lives. I think
Rampart lives too, to be honest.
Okay,
I'm going to revise what I said. I was going with Hux. I think he will outlive Hemlock. I think Hemlock is going to die, and I think Rampart will take over his role and remain as the antagonist.
Whether he's good or evil, I think he lives, and I don't know if he's going
to. What if he does something? Because I hate to say it, but what if he does something? He puts them in a position that gets one of the batch killed, and he becomes the villain again, and we're like, because it would really be a good way. It would be a good way to get the audience to just hate that bastard and just root for the good guys to take him down.
You've got a cool beard now, Rampart. You don't need to do this.
You don't need to do this.
Yeah, CX2, I don't know what his role is. If he's got a major role in the finale, I think he's dead. If he's barely in it, I think he's in the next show.
I'm going to call it. I don't think CX2 is going to be in this at all. I think they've made a big deal out of his identity because they've made a point of how he's different from the other CX clones. They've made him a very tricky antagonist. They've kind of played up the idea that his identity is secret, because they could have just taken it off and said, oh, it's just some generic clone. He's definitely a clone we know, whether that's Tech or Cody remains to be seen, because I don't think just because he's not in the finale doesn't necessarily rule out that he's Tech, because I feel like whoever survives the show, or along with Omega, that would make sense to bring them in for a storyline potentially, because they could reveal in the follow-up show that it's Tech, and so that becomes a storyline to involve Omega and whoever survives of the batch. Really, like they want to come along for the mission to help get Tech back. Now, that would be a good.
Here's where I might differ from you, and this might be me being a bit too naive. I think Hunter, Wrecker, Crosshair all make it out.
Yeah, no, we're gonna differ on this, because
if they fucking kill Crosshair, man, I am not gonna be happy. But I am
50-50 on.
I feel like our big Hauser and potentially Echo to me are going to be the ouch moments of this finale. I just don't think they're going to kill them. I think we're going to end on a relatively happy note, and I think the three of them and Omega are safe. I could be very wrong.
I think Wrecker is.
So you
is
think
fine.
it's either Crosshair or Hunter that goes?
I don't think Wrecker is. Yeah, I don't think Wrecker is going to die. I think Wrecker,
because they already had the fake out death in Point of No Return. So
yeah.
I feel like I feel like he's safe,
and he's such a fun character that keeping him around is you kind of want him kept around so he can show up in the Clone Resistance show and help the Rex and Echo out from time to time. I still think Echo is fine. I think Crosshair I'm 50-50 on, because I could see Crosshair making a selfless decision, giving up because he didn't want to go back to Tantiss. He didn't want to he just wanted to get as far away from that as possible. And I could see him maybe making a sacrificial play to get Omega away. But I also feel like it would be more interesting for him to survive and continue to grapple with his PTSD, because I don't feel like him sacrificing himself necessarily is as interesting as him dealing with his PTSD and his handshaking. And I really hope that they don't say that his handshaking is the result of some kind of like, oh, they put it in another clone, or like, oh, he's got like his chip in his head still and it's malfunctioning. I hope it is just PTSD, and it's because it's a more interesting thing for the characters to grapple with, and it's not something we've had to deal with a clone trooper before, with a character who's fought in a war. And it's the kind of thing Star Wars should kind of do, even for something that's ostensibly a kid's show that's marketed towards like older kids. It's really cool to see them deal with things that happen in real wars, like PTSD, you know, because that shit really affects like soldiers and vets and stuff. It's an interesting topic of conversation that should be explored more in a context like Star Wars. If there's any member of the Bad Batch that I think is going to die, I do think it's going to be Hunter, because Hunter is by default the main character of the show. He's the leader of the Bad Batch. He is the one who has been driving their actions as a group the whole way through. And given that this is ending, the Bad Batch as a show is ending, and we might be transitioning to another clone show, it would be kind of weird if they don't lose at least one of them in the finale. And to lose the leader kind of symbolically marks the death of the Bad Batch as a group, because what's left of them, like either Crosshair joins up with the Clone Rebellion, or he, Omega and Wrecker all retire to Pabu to sort of live a relatively peaceful life. And the reason I think it's going to be Hunter is the one who's pushed for that life. He's pushed for Omega to have the quiet life. He wants the quiet life for himself and for Omega more than any other character on the show. Even Omega herself, Hunter is the one who has pushed the most to have that haven, have that peaceful life. So again, I feel like he will make it the selfless act of giving up a life with Omega, because and this is the other half of it, we've seen how Hunter's biggest flaw is almost his possessiveness over Omega. You know, he gets jealous when other characters start to intrude almost into like mentoring and helping to raise Omega, you know, like Ventress and Crosshair and Fee. He braced against each and every one of them coming in to mentor her. And Ventress did float the idea of, you are going to have to let her go at some point. And I don't think Omega's just going to take off and leave the batch and go on adventures of her own. I think this is Hunter's way of letting her go, letting her, trusting that she will be safe without him, that he doesn't have to protect her anymore, that she is safe and secure enough with others, and that he can allow her to like go forward like on her own path now. It just makes sense in terms of, if you're going to end the show and you're going to end the story of the Bad Batch, it kind of makes sense. I mean, literally the backdrop behind us is Hunter's helmet with the final season. So it's very reminiscent of how season 7 of the Clone Wars ended with the helmet. So like, you know, I could see it, like maybe all they have left of him is the helmet, and
I
Omega
think you
just
might be right. I'm still being naive, but I think you might be right.
Like,
so,
if you're right, I will be happy, because it would be nice to be proven wrong about a character death. I would have really been happy to be proven like right about Tech living, because like Tech, I'm still hurt about Tech's death, but I feel
I think because that was kind of out of nowhere. Like, I don't think any of us saw that coming. So that might be like, but I like, if they go for that again, it's like, well, who is it going to be? Like, would it be Wrecker? But like, I don't think Wrecker's dying like at all. So it'll be tough.
Wrecker has been kind of arc adjacent the whole series, and that's kind of what I love about him. He almost doesn't devise character development, because he just loves life.
Body slam people and
he's a simple clone with like simple goals in life, and it's just great to see him live his best life. So I just don't see. It would be sad to lose him, but in terms of like a thematic and a character progression story, I just don't think a sacrifice or a death is the right end for him outside of like temporary shock value. And I always resist in fiction, you know, and this is from someone who's recently begun binging The Walking Dead again. I I generally resist killing characters off solely for shock value, because yes, you can have the whole, oh, anyone can die at any moment, but you have that effect, sadly, where you start robbing the story of interesting characters and cutting their development short when you could be progressing them to like new places. And I feel like Wrecker as a character, I know I said he defies development, but he is a good counterpoint to a lot of the grimmer parts of this show. This is a very dark show. It's probably darkest of the animated shows that we've explored so far.
I think so.
But we've got to have a almost childlike character like Wrecker to balance out the darkness. Kind of makes a lot more sense. So I think Wrecker is fine. I think Crosshair could go either way. Like I could see Crosshair and Hunter like back to back going out together, but I just think
furious.
I think Hunter is the one who's gonna bite the bullet. And
if your Hunter
he's gonna
theory
bite
is
the dust.
correct, I do like the fact of Wrecker living, because then like I like that he'd be the constant, like in the like all iterations of the group, as he's there.
Yeah, and like if
he's there for Omega, like I like that.
Yeah, because like if my theory about CX2 being tech is true, and that carries over into the next season, it gives more emotional weight to that potential storyline, because you could have like, I don't know, Echo or Rex find out that CX2 is tech, and they go to Omega and say, oh, you know, Tech's still alive, and suddenly it becomes this emotional storyline of they have to get Tech back because they lost Hunter, and they need what's left of their family to kind of coalesce again. That would be a nice story to explore potentially. I could be wrong about all of it, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, our tallies are, for me, it's Liv, all the members of the batch, Omega, and Rampart. And then Die, Hemlock, Emerie, Hauser, and sadly Echo are my picks. And I think for you it was what I think you had
Emerie live, Rampart live, Hemlock die, Echo live, Wreck-It live, Crosshair live, Hunter die, and Hauser die as well.
Mm-hmm. I think we're all in agreement though that the kids are living. Like I think
the kids are gonna be fine. It's kind of why I think Echo will be fine. I think Echo will wind up just having to get the kids out of there mainly, and maybe Omega will be separated because she's got the whole thing with the Zillow Beast going on, which I think, and I absolutely think we'll see her put her hand on the Zillow Beast's head and calm it. You know, kind of like with Grogu with the Rancor in Book of Boba Fett. That would be kind of cool, but also calling back to Asajj Ventress calming the sea creature.
One last thing. Do you think we get like an actual like seeing it reveal of the Palpatine clones?
Yes, I feel like we've got to. I feel like we've got to get a sense of what was going on here, and we haven't even talked about that. But like, I think, like as we've speculated, I think for sure we're gonna get to see how Tantiss was the linchpin in Project Necromancer, and how the clones wind up crippling Palpatine's attempts to resurrect himself, which would be perfect big picture storytelling in terms of the Star Wars saga, because the clones foil a plan by Palpatine to clone himself after he took away their individuality and their freedom, and it's all taking place in a location from the expanded universe that was introduced the larger idea of cloning to Star Wars in the expanded universe continuity. That's just really cool stuff. Like really cool way of like taking all these different elements from across the saga and finding an interesting way to tell a story about soldiers, about wounded and traumatized veterans, like rebelling against the very system that cast them out and abused them and took them for granted, and basically smashing that system. That's just a really interesting, like, long form story to tell. Absolutely.
One last thing I did want to point out about the episode themselves, because we talked about the Zillow Beast, we talked about Echo and Emerie. I did like those moments when Crosshair and Rampart were talking. It's like, oh, you're only loyal to yourself. It's like, oh, I've changed. And he's like, have you though? And I'm like, is that a tease for Rampart? Is that him talking to himself? Like, what is that? Like, or is he still like, oh, Crosshair at the end of the day is going to choose himself over the batch, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think
I don't think so. I think Crosshair will be fine. I think that's why I kind of think Crosshair will live, because I think Crosshair is
Crosshair to
again,
me is going to be the most. I'll be the most devastated. Well, I mean, aside from Omega, because that's like the obvious. Like I'll hate myself, but like Crosshair, I'll be the most devastated over out of all the members of the batch if they go, because I think his arc this season has been fantastic, and I want it to be rewarded with him continuing on and his story continuing and then not ending in, even if it's a very powerful sacrifice, I don't want it to end that way, because I want him to still be with his family. And I want to see him overcome his trauma. And I don't think death is necessarily the best way of ending that story.
exactly.
I definitely think we're going to get that huge fuck yeah moment where he makes the shot or he helps out.
No question.
I think it
like maybe Hunter just like throws the reflecting
season.
Maybe Hunter like throws the reflecting mirror and he just shoots it and it just like takes Hemlock out. That would be awesome. I mean,
you weren't here for Juggernaut, but we did get a return of how touching, which is just
how touching. Yes,
just
it's so
beautiful.
good. Like, and I also have to like briefly comment on Juggernaut, because I know some people like found that a little bit like filler-esque as an episode. I personally thought it was really fun, and I loved how it was kind of like a Fast and Furious style like action, frolicking action bit with the clone turbo tank, because that the clone turbo tank is awesome, and we don't really, at least like the V-wings, we don't really get to see very much of it in action. So it was really awesome that they built a whole episode kind of around it, like an action sequence with it as like a tribute to it. I thought it was really awesome.
Yeah, no, I am.
Like Hunter like launching a clone turbo tank off another clone turbo tank after they have a standoff on the bridge was just rad.
I think Wrecker chucking Rampart into the ship is just enough to give it just.
Oh, it's hilarious.
It was just one of the best moments or just shots of the whole show. It was great. But yeah, no, I think we're both very excited for where the finale is going. Hopefully they give us some time to tell the story and we don't rush it in 20 minutes. Because I think you can have a really excellent finale here and really wrap up the story in a great way, whether it's going to be pseudo continued in another show or not. Like, I think we need to wrap up the Tantiss narrative and whether or not we see the characters again, give a satisfying conclusion for this iteration of the Bad Batch.
Exactly. Because it's got to feel like the main takeaway I have, because I have no doubt that we're going to see some of these story threads continue, like we said. And I'd be very surprised.
I think Omega is going to be I think she's going to play like how Ahsoka played a big role in the early animated shows. I think Omega is going to be the continuation of every time we get a show in this time period. She's gonna show back up there.
Yeah. Oh, brief aside, because we've obviously talked about like how it's a the Clone Rebellion is one candidate for the next animated series. The Hidden Path is another one. Do you think the clones could wind up helping to start the Hidden Path? Because I think that would be awesome.
I think
it
might
that be amazing
as a Clone Rebellion show and then transition into a Hidden Path or them forming that. Because I think regardless of what the show is, I think Rex, Ventress, Omega, and hopefully Quinlan are involved in the show regardless of what it is.
That would be awesome.
Whatever that is, and then maybe one of the characters we see in Tales of the Empire is also in there. Like, we'll see.
Yeah, maybe Barriss shows up. She needs some help. She needs some help, like getting like out of there and getting away from the Inquisitors. But it would just be really nice, like reversal storytelling, like mirrored storytelling as well. You know, the clones, to have the clones wind up actually protecting the very Jedi that they were manipulated into killing. That would be kind of like, that would be a really nice kind of like, it would be very heartfelt, really, because Clone Wars, among some of its many storytelling achievements, kind of took the whole reveal of the clones killing the Jedi and made it even more heartbreaking with the reveal that like so many of the clones were they got on with their Jedi generals. They were like bonded with them, you know, like there's that shot. I mean, the first shot I think of when I'm talking about this is like young Cal Kestis high-fiving that clone trooper in the flashbacks in Jedi Fallen Order. That's just, that was the vibe. That was the vibe between most of the clones and their Jedi, and it's such a heartbreaking thing to see Palpatine come between that and pervert it and ruin it. So it would just be a really touching thing if the clones wind up protecting the very Jedi that they were manipulated into killing. To go back to what you were saying about like how we expect the show to end, I feel like if we want to have anything to take away from the finale, it's got to feel like an endpoint for the Bad Batch as a show. Like we've got to feel more than anything that like, oh right, this is the end point. This is the end point. I get why you are ending the Bad Batch as a story concept and you're moving towards like another story concept, because it would feel less cynical, I suppose, because you could argue that because Rex is the more popular character, they're recentering a new show about him instead of just pivoting and making like future seasons the Bad Batch about Rex. But it kind of makes sense, I suppose, to like end it here and to like have the destruction of Tantiss or the crippling of Tantiss. I don't think this will be the end of it. I'd be very surprised if it doesn't show up in the post Return of the Jedi era, especially now that we know Thrawn's back in play. And I'd be very shocked if we don't have Thrawn on Tantiss at some point. But the crippling of Tantiss in this era would be a nice, like, symbolic victory, as I've said, for the Batch to go out on. That would be really cool.
And to have it be the clones that take down the Empire's plan of cloning. And
now that's a fist pumping, like, fuck
exactly.
yeah moment right there.
I forgot one character for our little game, and that's, I think, Nala Se is dead.
Oh yeah, no, I think I'd be very surprised if Nala Se makes it out. I mean, she could become part of the clone resistance. Who knows? Like,
she could, but I don't know. I just think she doesn't survive the.
I mean, she's been kind of. I don't know. I feel like she's been too much of a kind of so presence throughout the season for her death to mean much at this point. I feel like it would be kind of like, okay. I feel like her death should probably mean something a little more comparatively, because she's had a little more investment in the narrative than, say, I don't know, Torn Way, which I think it's so funny that Torn Way, like, non-verbally showed up in season 1 and just got killed off screen by Fennec Shand. I was like, oh, okay. That character's dead.
Yeah, okay. I remember you from episode 2.
That must have been an awkward conversation with between Boba and Fennec Shand. Well, I used to grow up on Camino. My best friend was Torn Way, and Fennec's like, Torn who? Torn Way. Oh yeah, I know her. I killed her. It's like that Rick and Morty joke where where Rick first meets a Phoenix person. Where is Tammy? Oh, don't worry about her. I killed her. I loved her. I won't go into the rest of that, but yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been an awkward conversation.
Speaking of Boba, like I think whatever story you're gonna tell with him, you save for the next show, because I think it would just be weird if you have just a random Boba Fett cameo in the finale after never having him in here. But you've got to pay off that Omega and Boba thing. Like you can't just throw that in there as a random throwaway line in season 1 and never follow up on that.
I'm kind of amazed that like Boba Fett's only real like appearance in the show has been through like an offhand remark about him being designated Alpha, which I'm happy because I was calling Boba the Alpha like at the start of the season, and I thought, no, they're probably never going to acknowledge that, and then they did, and I was like, yes, that's so cool. But yeah, I think Boba potentially is better suited for like whatever show they're doing next. A Boba Fett cameo here would be extremely forced.
Yeah, I think we all kind of thought it was going to happen because Daniel Logan came back for this season.
I know,
but I feel like a lot of things that they set up, they're pushing for the future. So I think you might have been right about them at least planning one more season before this, and maybe they just decided along the production that's like, hey, we're going to just retool this into another show. And
I think they realized that there was just that because the clone resistance is made up of so many different clones, and you can maybe fold some of the existing characters in. It would just make more sense, because I think the problem with Rex is Rex is so cool as a character. We all love him, and he's so popular that I feel like he would potentially overwhelm the story of the Bad Batch. And so it doesn't really make sense to promote him to like lead in a show like this because he does instantly overwhelm the Bad Batch. Like literally, like every time they've had him in like the guest spots, he has threatened to do that because he is such a popular character. And
which is why I think
like,
it's been kind of smart that they've limited him to just 1 or 2 episodes a season.
I mean, literally every appearance he showed up in, that he's done at least one awesome thing, whether it's like dropping the CX clone, hunting Ryochuchi with one shot, and like a Chad, and then like throwing the thermal detonator away, just like confronting Wolf on the mountaintop. That was just all just like really awesome stuff. And I just feel like if you're going to do another show, it just makes sense for Rex to be the centerpiece, really, because it's like Rex has been such a stalwart of Star Wars animation. It's about time he got his own show, really, and maybe like do that Darth Vader thing I talked about, because that would be kind of cool.
I mean, it's definitely how you can bring Ahsoka back into the fold too in animation, is if that's the next show. But yeah,
also, I have to applaud the show for showing the restraint,
not having her in it,
Ahsoka, because it would have been the easiest thing in the world to do to bring Ahsoka in, and I'm very impressed that they haven't done that. They have.
I like that
away from her.
I like that our like Clone Wars characters we've revisited have been like the Gunjis, the Cad Banes, Ryochuchi, Trace and Rafa. Like we're Cut LaQuain. Like we're getting characters that we hadn't seen in years prior to this. Return Ventress, like return to have, whether it be recurring roles or just show up for an episode and help with the story. Even like the more gratuitous cameos like Hera, or like they meant something for the story. And obviously Hauser has become a recurring character in the narrative, which was helped by those Ryloth episodes. So I just, again, I applaud, like you said, I applaud how they haven't brought Ahsoka in, because it could be very easy to be like, okay, we're bringing in Ahsoka and we're bringing in Boba Fett and we're going to make Rex part of the group. Like, these are things that we'd be like, yeah, but like narrative wise, they've focused on these characters and they've made it still at its core about the Bad Batch, which I think has just been, I mean, obviously the show is called The Bad Batch, but I just think it's been a great story they've been telling this season, and I'm devastated to see it go, which is why I'm hoping that the finale is awesome. I mean, our track record for animated series finales have been pretty damn spectacular so far. So I'm hoping it's great. Give us a nice extended episode, please, because you can't wrap this up in 20 minutes and have it be satisfying. You just can't.
No
There's
way.
so much you have to finish
We'd love
off
an hour.
Here. Yeah,
we'd love an hour, but we will take like just over.
I will
40
take
minutes.
45 minutes. Yep, I will. Yeah. I will take anything. Just give us a nice double length episode and finish things off. And I can't wait. I'm very excited.
Same,
but
I am as well.
I think that does it for our double length discussion of the last 2 Bad Batch episodes. Let us know what you thought of both Into the Breach and Flash Strike in the comments. What did you think of the episodes? As for our discussion and our conversations surrounding the Bad Batch finale itself, you can probably expect that later in the week. I know the weekend is going to be fairly busy for myself because I will be seeing Phantom Menace on Friday, and then Saturday we'll both be probably spending most of the day watching Tales of the Empire. So my guess is you can expect the series finale episode. We'll probably record that on, guessing, Thursday. We haven't. We're literally just talking right now. We don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
Sometime at the end of the week. And then next,
gotta get a handle on this.
And then we'll probably tackle Tales of the Empire first. We'll probably do one big batch recording and do it how we did with Tales of the Jedi and split it in 2. So do one episode on Elsbeth, one on Barriss. And then after that, we'll do the full season 3 retrospective episode on the Bad Batch. Once we are a week or 2 out and we can fully process our thoughts on the series and the season in general. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us. We apologize for the lateness, but we are here and we are very ready for the finale. So Don, where can everyone find you as we look forward to the ending of this series?
Well, okay, you can find me on Twitter at Donovan Mead, where I tweet about Star Wars, Marvel, a whole bunch of stuff. You can also find me on TikTok at Donovan McComish, Instagram Donovan_McComish, Threads Donovan_McComish as well, and Blue Sky at DonovanMcComish.bsky.social. I am also a question writer for Star Wars in a Galaxy, Epic Confrontations, along with Connor and Eli, and a couple of other exciting additions we've had to the writing team recently. Really looking forward to all the different matchups we have coming down the line. I am also, along with Connor and some of our other friends, including Amy, I am a writer for SWEF, Star Wars Editor Fiction, which is a series of interconnected short stories that take place within the realm of canon for Star Wars. We don't try to stray too far from what is considered canon. We will try and adapt some elements of legends and put them into these little short stories full of love and affection for Star Wars if we feel it's necessary. I have written one story so far for SWEF. It came out in June of 2022. It's called Scars of War, and it stars a clone trooper called Blister who deserts the newly christened Empire in the wake of Order 66, and 5 years later finds his peaceful existence on the Outer Rim world of Kivo interrupted by the arrival of a Jedi Knight named Shar Kun. And it's all about them unpacking the trauma that was contained within Order 66. So if you like Star Wars and pain, definitely give it a read.
Absolutely. As for myself, you can find me on all socials at Starlight Andrew. You can follow the pod on Twitter at For the Repub Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at For the Republic Pod. Just a reminder, when this episode drops, the finals of Glup Madness will be live on our Twitter. Vote on those polls. Deva Lompop versus Depa Balaba. Who will walk away the inaugural Glup Madness champion? That's for you to decide. We already talked about what's coming in the coming weeks, but we got Bad Batch, we got Tales of the Empire, and once that's all done, we can go back to talking about the Clone Wars as we prepare for the incoming of the Acolyte, which, oh my God, I don't know if we'll be recording before I see Phantom Menace again, but I cannot wait for that Acolyte footage. That is for certain.
Oh, that's going to be crazy
right now. But yeah, no, let us know how you're going to be spending your May 4th. What do you think the finale is going to bring to us? And until next time, see you guys later, and may the Force be with you always.